Hey everyone, it's Greg. Welcome back to another Dice Throne Talk. Today we are going to be talking about the Moon Elf from Season 1 Rerolled. And this is her board. Fantastic art overall, and she is a fantastic hero overall. I'm going to be using one of Dice Throne's game mats that you can purchase on the Dice Throne shop webpage. Check it out. I absolutely love the mat. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about the Moon Elf here. Going to her leaflet first, she is a complexity level 2 out of 6. Does not mean that she is weak. In fact, I would consider her extremely strong overall. Her dice pool allows her to do quite a few different attacks. As you can tell, she does 1, 2, and 3 are arrows, 4 and 5 are foot, and 6 is moon. When we are looking at her attack pool here, you have Eclipse that does 6s. Large straights and small straights can do those 6s. In the foot, obviously, exploding arrow 6, demising shot 6s. And then you also have the covered shot and a longbow as a backup in case you just need to deal just pure damage overall. She does quite a few different status effects tokens. She has blind, stack limit of 1. The person who is blinded rolls a 6-sided die. On a 1 or 2 fails their offensive roll. It fails and has no effect of any kind. So that's a nice little negative status effect on them. Entanglement makes the person who is entangled roll any 2 rolls instead of 3 for their next offensive roll phase. It is not persistent. And then you have Evasives, and she is extremely good at defense. She is very strong, I would consider, in mitigating or not taking any damage at all with her defense. Evasives, when she is being dealt any damage, so very crucial in terms of when a player with this token receives damage. Doesn't save offensive roll phase, just damage overall. Roll a 6-sided die. A 1 or 2, no damage is received, but any other stats effects could still apply, and that is a stack limit of 3. And that is the only positive stats effect that'll go on her from her leaflet. And then lastly, targeted, stack limit of 1, adds 2 incoming attack damage, and it is persistent, and that is placed on the character who is being targeted. It's a fantastic one to have. If you're able to inflict that early on, I would highly recommend it. So now that we've gone over those status effects in her pool overall, demising shot, if you're able to get it early on, inflict that targeted, because if they're not able to get rid of targeted early, that additional damage is going to catch up to them very quickly. So I would highly recommend putting that on sooner than later. More so for a character or hero versus hero, less so in terms of Dice Throne Adventures, towards the minions who have low health that may be able to one-shot it or two-shot very quickly. If you're going against a fallen person, I would definitely put targeted on them as well. If you're going against a level 3, level 4 minion, also targeted would work well. Covered shot is going to be pretty much your go-to attack. The reason why is you gain that evasive, you're dealing 7 damage. If you have the target on top of that, it's base 9. And then if you have any additional attack modifiers, you can deal some excellent damage overall. Exploding arrow, I don't do that one too much overall. And when Chair, she plays this a whole lot, a friend of ours. She doesn't get exploding arrow a whole lot. The reason why is because you may be going for that eclipse, you may be going for the ultimate. However, this is a nice backup to those. So if I rolled a 6 to start with, I would be willing to roll those other 4 to see if I can get some more 6s based on hand as well. You can do a whole lot of damage. Loses CP for each 6 that you roll, and you also inflict blind, which is really nice overall. 33% chance that they are going to be blinded, but that's better than no chance. So Small straight, large straight's really good overall. If you can get that large straight, obviously it's better. You're only dealing 1 extra damage, but it's the status effects that are really important here. You are inflicting blind and then also gaining the evasives. So with that, you're blinding them, so they're having a harder time to just get through with their offensive roll. If they do get through that, now they have to get past the evasive. And if it's a defendable, they still have to get by the defense as well. Very, very strong setup attack. Eclipse or your mini ultimate, blind, entangled, targeted, deal 7 damage. Fantastic overall. So if you're dealing the targeted, so in terms of wording a dice thrown, it says inflict blind, entangled, targeted, then deal 7 damage. Therefore, you would inflict those 3 status effects, then deal 7. So you deal 7 plus the 2 plus is targeted. So it'd be 9 base damage for that attack. The only way that they could get past that is if they had a bye, which is an instant action that could get rid of that target immediately. Lastly, Missed Me. The base one isn't awful. The biggest thing on this one is on 2 feet, prevent half damage rounded up. Meaning if you rolled 4 feet, it's still only half. You don't half of a half. It just says on. And then for every 2 bows, deal 1 damage. Not great overall. You really want to upgrade that as soon as possible. When we're looking at some of the upgraded cards here, Demising Shot, which is going to be right here. That is a fantastic one to upgrade. You're adding 2 additional damage to it, as well as another attack for 2 CP. It's worth it in my opinion. Excellent overall. For focus, not ideal on a 1v1 possibly, but in terms of Dice Thrown Adventures, minion battles, maybe you can rely on something like this as a setup for next round as well if needed. You have Longbow 2 and 3, 2 CP and 3 CP. So it's pretty expensive overall for dealing a little extra damage for each attack, but 3 of a kind and dealing entanglement. If you're going against a hero, let's say Huntress, Paladin, whatever, that they are really struggling for those dice rolls, entanglement can be extremely strong. However, if you're going against someone with Barbarian, who is has an easier time, I would say, in rolling what they want in 2 rolls, not as ideal. So that is more case-on-case basis. It's pretty expensive overall. I would rather upgrade a couple other ones rather than Longbow, but if that's what I have and I have the extra CP, I'll upgrade it. Covered Shot, I would always upgrade this one. You're gaining an evasive, dealing 9 damage, and then evasive action, 2 undefendable damage. A chosen player gains evasive. So it doesn't have to be you, it can be somebody else if need be. Undefendable damage in Dice Thrown Adventures is extremely important, especially if those monsters or minions are dealing back with status effects such as bleeds, poisons, or dealing damage with a die, or it could be that if they roll a 6, they don't get dealt any damage. Dealing that 2 undefendable may not seem a lot, but what if you throw targeted on top of that? What if you have additional attack modifiers on top of that? You can take 2 undefendable into 4, 5, 6, 7 undefendable damage, which is extremely strong. Covered Shot, really good overall. Exploding Arrow, it's not bad overall. You still are rolling 5 dice. You're dealing 2 damage for each foot rather than 1. But that's it. I'd be willing to sell this card for another card, definitely for me overall. This one though, 3 damage, 1, 2, blind and entangled. 3 CP is pretty expensive. Not one of my go-to ones, but it's not bad. If that's what I have, that's what I have. It's kind of also based on what you're dealt with. Entangling Shot. This is always a small straights, large straights, usually good to upgrade as well. You're dealing 9 damage instead of 7, plus in targeted, that's 11 damage. That is extremely strong in Dice Throne Adventures, extremely strong in a 1v1. It's always a good one to have. That additional damage is very nice. You have Eclipse. So your mini ultimate upgrades, they're almost always worth it. This is no different. I would without a doubt upgrade this one. So your base attack here would be 11 damage because of targeted. And then the mini one, you're just getting all the stats effects without dealing damage. Also extremely good too. And then you have Blinding Shot. Fantastic as well. Let's say you need to get 3 evasives because your health bar is extremely low in Dice Throne Adventures and you just need to live for one more turn. Get those evasives, throw that entangled on them, try to keep them from attacking you. If they do, evade. You're dealing 10 damage as well. I like Blinding Shot. And then you have Mist Me. This is an automatic upgrade for me every single time. It's worth 3 CP. However, you're dealing 1 damage for each bow rather than every 2. For me, that is a no-brainer. Having that additional damage on your defense is crucial. You can tell that her upgrades are not cheap. There are 2 or 3 CPs, and she is not a hero that is going to develop a whole lot of CP throughout time, unless you have your Vegas babies gain 2 CP, whatever it may be, or getting paid, I should say, gain 2 CP. You may have to sell some cards. That's why I'm willing to sell, let's say, Exploding Arrows, maybe a longbow, whatever it may be, to be able to upgrade these other higher priority cards. She doesn't have a cleanse or anything like that, so getting those stats effects out off of her is pretty crucial, especially poisons. Bleedings aren't bad overall. I think the ability to roll them off is fantastic, but those poisons can really get you. The burns are nasty. In Dice Throne Adventures, you want to hold on to your removal of status effects. And then if you're going against a hero that wants to burn you, wants to poison you, I would hold on to these. But if you're going against a hero, Paladin, Barbarian, characters that aren't going to deal a whole lot of status effects or status effects that you can deal with, then I would sell those cards as well. Your Soul Wilds, always good. Not this time. This may be one of the few characters that I would consider getting or selling in terms of a 1v1. Not so much in Dice Throne Adventures, because there will be a lot of times when they do undefendable damage, or it could be anything that prevents you from rolling your defensive roll. I would still keep this, not this time, in Dice Throne Adventures. It's extremely important. Let me see if I can get... She has a take that, roll a die, adding 2 damage, inflicting entangled, inflicting blind. And it's no CP. I think that's fantastic overall. It doesn't need to be anything crazy, but all 3 of those are fantastic, especially if you're doing covered shot, perfect one to add on. Longbow, perfect to add on. If I'm going to do a straight, maybe not, because there is a likelihood of getting that blind, getting that entanglement that I'm already doing. You have Volley, fantastic one, 1 CP, rolling 5 dice, add 1 damage per bow. Arrow. And I keep on saying bows because they're bow and arrows, but it's called an arrow. That's fantastic for a little extra hit on somebody, especially let's say you're doing undefendable damage with the covered shot. Other upgrade, that would be fantastic as well. Evade. A chosen player gains evasive, so more important in Dice Throne Adventures or 2v2 rather than yourself, because you should be able to gain evasives pretty regularly with your covered shots, blinding shots, eclipses. That shouldn't be difficult to keep on going, to always have 1 on you. Other than that, your other basic cards, Better D. You may want to keep Better D because you may not roll 2 feet or 2 foot on the first roll, so better D may be a good one to have. Overall, her rolling isn't awful. It's pretty simple overall. The last two cards here are the Moon Magic and Lunar Umbra. 4 CP, that is extremely expensive for the Moon Elf. Extremely expensive. She doesn't gain a whole lot of CP, and when she has it, she usually uses it pretty quickly. And all of this can be done by an Eclipse, so it'd be more of a sell. Lunar Umbra, fantastic. I mean, just drawing a card is powerful, but then rolling and inflicting one of these negative status effects is also good. I would want to do, though, that probably more on the second main phase than the first main phase, but that could always be dependent on what I have and what's out there and the status of the game. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to roll dice a couple times here and see how we do if we have no CP overall, and how I would roll it. Because there's going to be a lot of times when she has no CP because she's going to be upgrading, and you're going to be really reliant on your dice overall. So you have 2 foot, 3 arrows, and I would probably just go for the covered shot here. So I would roll these 3, and so we have that, and now I'm just going for a bow. Oh, okay, and I have that. So I did strike out that time. If I had the covered shot, right there, evasive action. Chosen player gains evasive, deal 2 undefendable. So you're not always, even though you have a likelihood of rolling arrows 50% of the time, you're not always going to be able to do that. So as you can already tell, upgrading that one to go for covered shot, if you don't get it, you can still get evasives. Dealing that undefendable damage is always good. So we'll try again here. Alrighty, so pretty much the same as the last time. So I could overall keep 2 of the bows, the 1 and the 2, and roll the 1. But then I'm really kind of constricting myself in some ways in terms of the ability to get that foot, get the dice, what I want it to be. Alrighty, so 4, 5, 6. This is not great overall. I gotta be honest with you. So in this kind of circumstance, you could go for the 3, chasing a 3 with 2 dice. Not great chances overall. So let's go ahead and roll this, because if I roll a 6, I strike out. If I roll a foot, I get a covered shot. If I roll an arrow, I get longbow. So that's how I'd go about that. Okay, and I got the longbow, dealing 4 damage. So at least I dealt damage in that time. Alrighty, so we have 2, 3, 5. So what I would probably do here is keep those. The reason why is because I could go for the straights, covered shot, what have you, and again, longbow. So even though covered shot should be the one you want to go for a lot, you may not be getting it a whole lot. 2, 3, 4 is a good start for a straight. We do have the exploding arrow here. Not rolling great overall, so I would probably just roll that. And of course, I roll another 6. And there's the covered shot. Gain evasive, dealing 7 damage. We'll roll one more time here. Let's see if we do get a 6. I do not, but then boom, covered shot. 3, 4, 5. I would keep the covered shot at 1 and chase the straight. We'll do it again here. I just like rolling a whole lot. All right, so we have 2 6s. Let's go ahead and try to chase that. We could also chase the straights if you wanted to chase the straights. That'd probably be a little safer overall. You could also chase demising shot, would probably be the safest bet. You only need an arrow with 2 more rolls. You can definitely get that inflict targeted. So, oh, okay. So then we went to exploding arrow. So then I go there. All right, exploding arrow, boom. So her rolling 6s is really nice. So we'll keep that. Not great overall. So in that case, I would probably try to switch it, go for the longbow, go for that 7 damage. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 small straight. So try to see what you have on that first roll figure out which what attacks are most likely you're to get. I know you may want to really go for that Eclipse, you really want to go for that large straight, whatever it may be, covered shot, but the dice don't work in your favor. So having the ability to manipulate your dice is your benefit. It's always your benefit to have the ability to do that, but you could also manipulate your opponent's dice to keep them from getting their large straights, keeping them from getting any status effect tokens, whatever it may be. So you can definitely interchange the need of using the dice manipulation cards for you or for them. Keep in mind that you also have missed me. So if I was going to roll for my defensive roll here, so right here, I will deal 2 damage, because for every 2, I deal 1. So that is 1 and that is 1, and that would be it. Boom. So I have 2 feet, and a bow. So I don't deal any damage, and on 2 feet, I prevent half rounded up. So these 2 don't really matter. It just matters for these first 2 feet and dealing half damage. And if I needed to roll for an invasive for any reason, boom, evade the rest of it if need be. Remember, you can do your defensive roll first and then do status effects. The reason why status effect tokens are instantaneous and they'll be completed right away. Overall, my view of the Moon Elf, fantastic character, fantastic art. I believe she's actually extremely powerful overall. She has the ability to inflict a lot of status effects on opponents. Blind can really make people shy away from going from a big attack or using cards for a big attack because they don't want to be blinded and waste those cards, those resources. Entanglement, keeping people to only 2 rolls instead of 3 rolls, is also a huge benefit for you to keep people from going for a smaller attack as well. They're going for those smaller attacks, going for the defensive roll, you're taking half damage. She is quite a sponge and taking a lot of damage. And then if you're able to evade a whole lot of your rolls, that can be a really benefit to you and detriment to them mentally in terms of trying to get through, and they just can't because of the evasives, and then throwing the target on top of them. She is a person that can really whittle people down, but also has some major attacks, especially when you start upgrading them. You could have easily over 11 damage for multiple attacks. Entangling shot, blinding shot, eclipse, all because of targeted. Overall, fantastic character. Highly recommend playing her. You can buy her in the battle chest box or with the 2 hero set with the barbarian. Those 2 go hand in hand together. Highly recommend her being if you're new to Dice Throne, trying her out because she gets you really introduced into the status effects, gets you introduced to the different terms in terms of then, on, for every, evasives, whatever it may be, but still rolling to your benefit. Really good overall. So overall, Moon Elf, fantastic hero. And we'll see you next time for our next Dice Throne talk over another hero. Thank you.